someone else is trying to give you that playpen. But all you got to do is stand up, walk over it, and go forth into greatness. So I think boxes are a facade. Boxes are the thoughts of other people. And don't let anybody try to box you into something, because that's only based on their limited interaction with life and belief.
No matter where you come from or what challenges you face, remember that you have the power to transform your life. We're bringing you the most inspiring stories and voices from authors who are indeed powerful forces for the culture in their work. These interviews will keep you believing in yourself, inspire you to keep pushing forward, and most importantly, never ever stop dreaming. It's your boy Colby, and this is the Colby Culture Show. What's up, family? Welcome back to the Colby Culture Show, where we don't just talk to creatives about what they've made. We talk about who they had to become to make it. I'm your host, Derek Jacoby Washington, but around here, you know me as Colby. Listen, today's guest is one of those rare creatives who refuses to be boxed in, not by industry, not by expectation, and certainly not by fear. He started on stage as a background dancer for some of the biggest names of the early 2000s. He went on to produce and direct fashion shows all around the world, from New York to Paris to Africa. And when the world shut down in 2020, he taught himself photography and ended up with a Vogue cover and worked on Times Square billboards. He's written and directed 10 sold-out stage productions. He's the creator and showrunner of the television series Sunday Evenings, which was picked up by a network before it ever premiered. He's a proud HBCU graduate, a Harvard Business School alum, and a master of reinvention. And on top of all that, he's an author. His memoir, Baggage Claim, pulls back the curtain on the weight we carry, the identities we shed, and the courage it takes to start over again and again. Listen, this isn't a highlight reel conversation. This is about the story behind the story. Family, help me welcome to the Colby Culture Show, Blake Martin. Blake, what's good, brother?
Hello, everybody. How you doing, Kobe?
Doing well. What about yourself?
Doing good. Things are great. I'm very blessed.
Good. I love it. Listen, I want to start at the beginning, before the credits, before the titles, before the applause. You came into this industry as a dancer, working behind some of the biggest artists of that era. I'm talking B2K and Sierra. What did being in the background teach you about visibility, about value, and about patience?
Wow, that is such a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked it in that way before. I think being in that space and being thrusted into the limelight with bigger artists really taught me about storytelling. I know that as a dancer, you don't always think of dancers as storytellers, but truly a concert performance, a stage performance is a story. And the dancers are just as much of the writers as the artists. So I think that was my first induction into storytelling. But more so than that, it taught me about work ethic. You know, being so young and being 16 and already going on tours and having to be the choreographer and a dancer and a creative director, it just taught me that what you need to make it in this business requires a different level of work ethic. Luckily, I was able to see my mother and her immense work ethic, and it kind of connected the dots for me. While my mother was not in entertainment, she was an educator. And my mother was that type of woman. She would get a degree and then just move on to the next one. So she had several bachelor's, master's, several doctorates. She was like, okay, I graduated yesterday and I'm going to go back to school next week. So it kind of just taught me, if you want something, there's a certain level of dedication that has to go into it. And so I saw how she moved in education. I kind of applied it to entertainment.
Yeah, I love that. And at what point did you realize, I'm grateful for this, but this isn't where my story ends?
I don't think I ever felt that.
Mm-mm.
I think it's been a God transition is what I say. So, you know, I had toured the world and been a dancer, and I thought that would be my life's work. My life would be a dancer. I'll be a background dancer and then a choreographer, creative director, and being in this world will be where I will be for the rest of my life. And then one day, someone hired me to choreograph a fashion show. And midway through the process, the producer of the fashion show quit the show. They had some type of beef with whomever and was like, I quit. I'm out. And I was like, okay, so we're all going to go home. And they said, well, the choreographer is the second person in line that knows the show the best. So would you mind just stepping in and completing the show? And I said, sure. I've never been to a fashion show in my life, but I can try. And that night of the fashion show, I literally said out loud, I'll never dance again because this has stolen my heart.
Wow.
This is stolen, and the rest is history.
Wow, man, that's amazing. So you've reinvented yourself multiple times: dancer, fashion show producer, photographer, playwright, director, showrunner. I know a lot of people are talented, but very few people know how to pivot without losing themselves. What gave you
Mm.
the confidence to kind of keep evolving instead of staying comfortable?
Again, I think it was a God transition. I've always felt like if God brought me to it, then why not?
Yeah,
Because here's the thing, even with dance, I trained and I took dance classes, but by no means do I consider myself a trained dancer, right? Because when I think of trained dancer, those are those people who have dedicated decades to their life to learning. And I was just not that. I was just naturally talented at dance. One day I just started dancing and people around me were like, well, wait a minute, you're really good. I think with fashion, it was the same thing. Like I said, I had never been to a fashion show in my life, but things just were innate to me. I was just like, this is what you do, and this is how you move, and this is where things should go. Oftentimes I would surprise myself, like, how the hell
hmm,
do you know that? And so it always just said to me, that's
that's
God's divine timing. And so in return, I'm like, if he brought me to it and I'm successful at it, that's God. And I say that because there's been so many things that I've tried to do and have failed miserably. So I knew those are not the things God needs for my life because when he wants me to do something, it's natural.
yeah, yeah, that's so good. So when the world shut down in 2020 and everything stopped, you didn't wait for permission. You picked up a camera and taught yourself photography. What did that
Yeah.
season teach you about resourcefulness and belief?
Wow, that is such a crazy time because when COVID hit, I was one of those very naive people that said, oh, this pandemic will last a month at maximum. So I remember buying a camera and said, well, since nobody's outside, I'll go outside and shoot trees and birds and landscape just to keep myself busy so I'm not in the house losing it.
Yeah,
And then kind of midway through the pandemic, when I was like, okay, this is not ending. Well, I've been a fashion show producer for 15 years. I know every model in the world. I guess I could shoot them. And I started shooting models. And again, I was with a friend of mine in the studio, and that first click, he looked at the camera and looked at the picture. And I remember the way he looked at me, he was like, this is about to be a problem. This is about He saw my instant love. He saw how good I instantly was at my very first click. And I just kind of soared with it. And so it taught me to never be stagnant. It taught me to not be afraid of the pivot because from dance to fashion didn't feel like a pivot. And maybe it didn't feel like a pivot because I was 22 and didn't know what a pivot was, right? At that time at 35, that definitely felt like this is a new thing because I spent so much time crafting my brand as a photographer, I mean, as a fashion show producer, and now I want to do something else and start over. But it just taught me that if you want something and you're good at it and you're passionate and you're dedicated to it, the world is open to you.
yeah, yeah, so good. And then getting a Vogue cover is a career defining moment for most photographers. And you did that
Yeah.
as a self taught creative. Did that moment validate you or did it challenge you to go even harder?
Cool. I think it validated me. I think it made me wildly insecure at the same time. And I think it scared the hell out of me, if I'm honest.
Got
I
it.
think it validated me because on the surface, when I got the cover, it was my third time working with Vogue. And before that, I just had Vogue features, just my work inside the pages. But a cover was another level. And I remember at the time, it was like, okay, Vogue is kind of the stamp of approval from the world. But then I also remember it made me wildly insecure because there were so many people that took that moment and said, well, of course he's good. He's been in fashion for so long. He has the cheat code. And it made me think, oh, am I not actually good? And this is a fluke? I don't know. And I kind of retreated for a few weeks. But then it also taught me, okay, it's a term in fashion that you are only as good as your last project. And so, I was like, well, if I got a Vogue cover, that means I gotta really step it up now. I can't keep playing around with it.
And so you've told stories through movement, through fashion, through photography, through theater, and now through television. I'm curious, what stays consistent in your storytelling no matter the medium?
I think reality,
Hmm.
authenticity,
Yeah.
and boldness. I think my part of the story, no matter the medium, is always what's the reality of what we're doing and how do we make this real? Even with fashion, and while fashion is not a dramatic space, I would be the person to choreograph and curate fashion shows of like, well, instead of just walking down the runway, why don't we do the show where the models are walking in the grocery store or they're, walking through the park, walking their dog? Like, let's make this a real environment and
Yeah.
a real thing. And even with stage plays and film and TV, I just wanted to have real stories. I think there was a lack of authenticity in stories. Sometimes you look at things and it's rooted in a real story, but there's so much dramatization that happens.
Yeah.
And I just wanted stories that felt like, well, this is real. I've cried about that before. I've heard my friends say that before. My boyfriend has definitely done that before. I just wanted to write stories and craft stories that felt authentic to people and their experiences.
Yeah, and people can relate to that so much more, I believe. So that
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue to this next question. So you've written and directed 10 stage productions, including The Fourth Wall, which really
Mhm.
pushed boundaries around structure and audience engagement. What
Yeah.
excites you about making people kind of uncomfortable in a way that forces them to feel?
I think in everything I do, I've always told people I just want conversation. I think there is a power in that. And I think, and I'm sure we'll get into it in this interview at some point, but in my childhood, there was a lot of lack of conversation.
Mm,
There was a lot of things that I was going through that was happening in my life and things that directly affected me, my life, my livelihood, and my safety. And no one was having a conversation with me about it. People were just kind of like, well, he's a child, he wouldn't understand, or he's a child, we'll make the best decisions for him. And no one talked to me about it. And so in my work, I just wanted to start conversation. So if you come to a stage play of mine, I always say I want someone to get in the car and immediately pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, we need to talk. Because they saw something on that stage that made them go, yeah, this is not great. So I try to show people that, again, that authenticity of, this person, and then I'm going to show you what the ending for them is going to look like. So that way you can step in now and try to save them from destruction. So I'm just always a person, but let's have a conversation about it. And I'm a person, I love uncomfortable conversations. I love that, hey, this is not going to be great for either of us, but we going to talk about it now.
So yeah, let's talk about your upbringing, your childhood. What was it like being a creative, growing up?
Well, I was anything but creative.
Huh?
I was a privileged only child. My mother, again, was a doctor and she was a professor. She was just amazing. But at the same time, she was dating a man that was not great. Frankly, he was a very, very high profile drug dealer. And it's the story of, the successful, brilliant woman. It falls in love with a man who is anything but good to her. And one day, I woke up, I think I was 10, and I woke up to my stepfather trying to kill my mother. And I called the police to try to save her. And luckily, we lived directly across the street from the police station. So it was like instant. They were there. And within that, he decided he was going to take her down with him and told the police where $250,000 worth of drugs were in our home. And because the home was in her name, my mother took the fall for it. And I still to this day have no idea what was going through their minds. But when the police arrested my mother and stepfather and took them away, they just closed the door and left me in the apartment. And so I instantly became a child who was living on his own. And I immediately had to figure out life. I lied on my job application to get a job at Dairy Queen and started to figure out how to pay bills and wash clothes and still show up to school, all while nobody knew about this. Like my family, my internal family knew about it, but they all lived in other states and other places, and they were trying their best to help me navigate this. But, I was alone. And I think in my young, naive mind, I didn't know what jail was or what it meant. So every day I just assumed my mother will be back in a few minutes. Like I remember sitting up sometimes like, she is just taking a long time. What is going on? And one day I think I realized she's not coming back. And for me, it was like ever. And so I remember sitting down with bottles of pills and glasses of water and deciding, this is gonna be the last day I live. And I sat down to kill myself, and I turned on the TV and turned on Britney Spears making the video for her video Crazy. And this particular part of the episode, the dancers were learning the choreography. And I remember looking like, well, what are they doing? That looks interesting. And I got up and I started to mimic their movements
Mhm.
and started to dance. And I had never danced before. And in that moment, I fell in love with dance and completely forgot that I wanted to die. Like completely forgot, just left my brain. And I was like, oh, from this day forward, I'm going to be a dancer. Like that's my life's mission and my life's work. And I never wanted to die a day after that because dance was everything to me. And how my pursuit and my love for dance started.
Wow, that's
So I wasn't a creative child. I was anything but. I was the child that I go to school, I get out of school, we go shopping. I lived a very lavish childhood. It was shopping and trips and, once a month, we're in the Bahamas and we're in Jamaica and we're going to Paris. Lived a very lavish childhood. I wasn't creative though.
what does that do to your psyche as a young adult, as a child, kind of navigating that space? But then how does your upbringing and all that you've experienced and gone through, how has that now shaped the person that you are and are yet to become?
Wow. I think on the first end of it, I think how it shaped me then, how it still shapes me today is as I've gotten older, I realized that there's a bit of arrested development. Again, I remember being 10, 11, 12, and figuring out all the things, how to pay bills and where bills go and ironing and washing clothes and all of the things. And even as a 40-year-old now, there are parts of me that still very much feel like that 10-year-old because he never got a chance to fully develop and be in that space. And so sometimes I can tell when my brain is like, because when things happen, I'm like, now where did that thought or feeling or emotion come from? And I realize I'm processing it from that little kid's
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of arrested development, if I'm being honest. And that's something that I'm grasping literally in the last 2 years of my life. But in the man I'm becoming, I think I am being very intentional. I think when you grow, at least for me, my brain was as you grow and your years go by and you get birthdays, you are growing up. And there was a time in my life, maybe 4 years ago, that I said, but I'm really not. I'm getting older, but I'm not growing up. And so it was in the last 3 years or so, I've been very intentional about growing up, being very observant of myself, others, my boundaries, how I respond to things, how I'm intentionally checking myself when I'm feeling emotions or thoughts that aren't great.
Mhm.
And so the man I'm becoming, it's so funny. Earlier today, I said to myself, I am really proud of you because I'm seeing leaps and bounds of growth in the way you would handle something 5 years ago
Yeah,
versus how you're processing it today. So I think that that little boy of me is catching up to this older version of me, and they're starting to give space to one another and align.
yeah. That's so good. That's so good. So I want to shift a little bit. Told me that your show wrapped yesterday. You celebrated. So let's talk about Sunday evenings. With it being picked up before it even premiered, what do you think networks saw in your voice that made them move early?
I think authenticity, if I'm being honest, I think authenticity and I think I have a knack for branding. So I think I tried to write characters that felt extremely real and relatable. I think one of the storylines that really pulled people in and continue to the most is with one of our supporting characters, Trevor. And Trevor is openly bisexual and he is dating a man and a woman at the same time. And he is very honest with both of them. He is not hiding things. He is not DL. He is not secretive. He is very honest about, I love both of y'all and I'm dating both of y'all. So deal with it. And also, the woman in his life is also very okay with it. She's like, you were honest. So it's not an issue for me. And so to see a black man be honest and open about his bisexuality and then a black woman be perfectly fine with it because he was honest, I think a lot of people were kind of jarred by that. And it was an interesting take on a story because he wasn't DL and the woman wasn't snooping and finding out things and rumors and all this trope
Yeah.
that sometimes happens in media. And so I think that was it. And I also think, again, with my main couple, it was just authentic storyline. She's an older woman. He is a younger man, and we dive into that age dynamic and financial dynamics when one is making more money than the other, and maturity levels, and all the things. And we're not trying to shy away from it. I'm trying to write things that are real and gritty and wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I think people just gravitated towards that. But I also think it's the marketing. A lot of shows don't begin to market or show the world anything until they're done and they're wrapped and pictures are perfect and edited. Versus me, I was day one on set on Instagram Live, showing the set and showing scenes and showing actors and posting pictures from day one. I was building a fan base from day one. And I think that was something that, people really responded to. I mean, we haven't even premiered, and one of our clips on Instagram is at 250,000 views already. And so people were just like, well, if you got 250,000 views off a 30-second clip on Instagram, give us this
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Because they're there. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about marketing. I had a young lady on my show who's a marketing guru. She actually refers to herself as the ghetto CEO, and her
Okay.
whole mindset is around marketing, marketing, marketing. Talk to the creative that has a wonderful idea, whether it be a book, a stage play, a show, or what have you. They are creative. They have all these great ideas. Talk to them about the importance of good marketing.
I think marketing is everything. Marketing and how you put your project out is paramount. But here's the thing that I do different. I don't market for anyone else other than me.
Mm,
I don't give a damn.
mhm.
So I put out the pictures and the clips and the things that made me laugh and my cast laugh and things that we loved. If you guys love it, we are so grateful and so humble. But also, I don't care. So I'm not trying to be perfect and crafted and curated. I'm like, I wrote this show, I created this show. So I'm going to put out the things that I fucking love.
Yeah,
If you guys respond, great. If you don't, great.
yeah,
'Cause I love it, and so I think people responded to that just approach. So people always say, especially creatives, "Oh, I'm waiting on the perfect time, and I'm waiting on the perfect budget, or I'm waiting on the perfect." Who cares about any of that? Just do it.
let's do it.
Put it out and go, and if you put it out for you, and if you are proud of it, who cares if anybody else loves it or not?
Yeah, so good. So good. So let's talk about your memoir, Baggage Claim. So this book
Yeah.
isn't just about success, it's about weight, it's about identity, it's about reinvention, and it's about letting go. What made you decide it was time to tell your story, not through a lens or a stage, but on the page?
Wow. So kind of going back to what I was saying before, I didn't know how much baggage I was holding on to as a child. From being a kid who was abandoned when my parents went away and to survive, I was a drug mule at 14. I was sex trafficked. I was raped twice in high school. I was an addict myself. I had to do so many horrible, terrible things to survive. And then right after that, I went into the entertainment business, which gives you a whole different set of stuff. And I've been in entertainment since I was 16. And so at 35, I didn't realize I had baggage. I was like, oh, that stuff happened when I was 13. I'm not holding on to that stuff anymore. Until one day I was fighting with someone, and she looked at me and and it was somebody I cared about deeply. And she looked at me and she said, I don't think I can talk to you anymore because you don't see it, but I see the devil coming out of you right now. And I was like, what? She's like, I see Satan coming through your pores. And I remember going home and saying, well, what did she see? Am I holding on to something that I don't know I'm holding on to? And I thought it was an issue. I thought it was probably one thing that I haven't unpacked. And I remember saying, well, I guess I can write it down and try to, figure it out. And 40 days later, I was still writing issue after issue after issue after issue after like, whoa, I forgot that even happened. And whoa, my brain started to just unlock all these experiences. And I was like, I had put that so far in the back of my brain. I remember typing and typing about because I was a cheerleader and typing about a basketball game in high school. And I remember I looked up and I was like weeping and I was like, why am I crying? And I called my cousin and she reminded me, she was like, you don't remember? That was the basketball game where you left and you were raped.
Wow.
I was like, I forgot that even happened. Because it just had buried itself so deep in me. And so again, 40 days later, I was still writing and pouring out and, you know, out came this amazing book.
Hmm. So let's dissect that word baggage a little more. What does it really mean to you? Is it the pain that you just discussed? Is it expectations? Is it versions of yourself that you feel like you had to outgrow? Like in your words, what's the definition of that baggage?
I think, great question. I think it's anything that you haven't unpacked the rhyme or reason behind. And so, the book chronologicals my childhood, but it also goes into the expectations of being an entertainer. It also goes into from my transition to being an entertainer to being a model manager and being a manager in that interesting dynamic of, wanting to do the best for talent and but also having to essentially lie on their behalf because of being a manager, you're constantly pitching and lying and trying to, sell them because they're a product, but and then you're literally sacrificing yourself for them, but they don't know that. So then in turn, they don't always treat you the best and because they don't know your sacrifices and you hold on to that resentment and that weight. And it's also, people don't understand when you're in the limelight, you can never truly ever be yourself again because you're always putting on a show.
Yeah.
And so it's just all other things that you hold on to, that you shift yourself and you change yourself and you lie about things and you're trying to make people comfortable and you're trying to appease people and one day you got $1 million and you're in Bali, and the very next day you're asking someone to buy you a meal. And it's just all of the stuff that you've gone through that you just kind of process, you do, and you move on. Baggage claim, seeing myself literally at an airport, see baggage go around the turn and start to unpack all of these issues. Um, and really try to process why that happened. How can I, get over this thing and push forward? But, baggage is something I think we all have. We just don't sometimes realize we have it. And here's how I process it. It's funny because I just came back from Atlanta and I remember them saying, like, your bag is free up to 50 pounds. And I was like, oh, I'm good because my bag is like 30 pounds. And I got there, he said, sir, your bag is 106
Woo.
pounds. I was like, with what? I only got shoes and some
Yeah,
socks. What are you talking about? But that's life. You're like, I don't have anything until you start opening up that suitcase. You're like, oh,
yeah,
I did forget those pair of Timberlands in there, and I did forget that sweater. You don't realize how much stuff
yeah.
is till you open it up and you get to the hotel. And I'm like, oh, I can see 106 pounds worth of stuff in here. He's right.
Such a good
Yeah.
analogy, brother. Oh my goodness. And what do you hope readers see in themselves when they read baggage claim, especially creatives who feel like, they're starting over too late?
Ooh, I think that I want them to just see pieces of me that relate to them and know that broken does not mean over. Broken does not mean discarded. Broken does not mean you cannot be fixed. There's that ado adage of, you can be broken and put back together, but you'll never be the same. I don't believe that. I believe broken glass with enough tape and enough glue and the right amount of God can be a brand new mirror
Yeah.
again. And so I feel like I just want people to know that there's hope. But I think that's the thing, again, going back, there's power in the conversation. In my book, I had to be very honest with not only myself, but everyone. And I remember at the time, my publisher was very scared and not for sales or anything else, but he didn't want to ruin my life because I didn't change people's names. I was very honest about everyone in my family. You abandoned me and you didn't give a care and you did this and I pissed at you for this. And while we were sitting at dinner, you were laughing and talking. I was under the table trying to slit my wrist because you did. And he was like, "Your family's gonna hate you." And I was like, "Don't care.
Hmm.
I don't care because I need to get it out. I need to be honest. And when they call me and ready to have the conversation, we can. But again, it would be a disservice if I'm talking about unpacking the baggage, but still trying to shield people.
Yeah.
It's gotta just unfold and get out there. So I hope people see themselves and be ready to have the hard conversations, especially for creatives, because we are in a business that Oprah made the quote, and I think it's so true that if you don't know yourself before you get in this business, it will teach you who it wants you to be. And so, I'm a person of now, you got to really know yourself or this business will take over you quick.
Yeah. So good. So you're an HBCU graduate. A shout out to all my HBCUs out there and a Harvard
Me.
Business School alum. That combination that happened by accident. How has discipline and education shaped the way that you move in creative spaces?
Well, I'm a person to be honest with everyone, especially your listeners. I hate education. I hate it. I am that creative who's like, what is happening
Yeah.
here? I hate this place. I just want to go be creative. Sitting in these college courses, what the hell?
Mm.
But again, I was the product of a parent who had an associate's, a bachelor's, three or four masters, and two doctorate degrees. So not graduating from college was a non-negotiable. So I was kind of like, I'm gonna do this to make my mother happy and then I'm out. But I loved the HBCU experience. I think that just taught me so much about people and culture and heart and grit. I absolutely loved college. So while I was not a fan of the academia part of it, the college experience was unparamount.
Yeah.
Then when it came to Harvard, I was an executive working for Uber. And I remember they sent out a random email and was like, for all executives on the executive level, Harvard is offering a program for entrepreneurs, and it's $100,000. Since you work here, if you want to do it, it's free. And I was like, yeah, I'm not passing that up.
For sure.
And it was a year course, well, courses, and I completed it and very happy to have graduated that program.
So in a culture obsessed with overnight success, your career tells a
Mhm.
very different story, one about longevity, of consistency and evolution. What does
Mm.
legacy mean to you now?
Ooh, that's a great question. My mother is what I think about when I think about legacy. And again, my mother was an amazing woman. She did so many things in her life and endured so much from, our childhoods kind of parallel a lot. And my mother went to prison for quite some time and all the things, but she got out and she turned herself around and became all of these things. But when I think about all the things she went through, I'm reminded, and I don't say this facetiously, every single day, there is someone who walks up to me and says, your mother, she was amazing. I would not have went to school if it were not for her. I would not have graduated if it were not for her. I would not be clean and sober if it were not for her. I would be dead if it were not for her. I would not have my wife and children and grandchildren if it were not for your mother. Your mother saved my life. And my mother's been gone 10 years, and every single day, someone still messages me and says that about her. And to me, that is legacy. Long after you have gone, what do people still say about how you made them feel? And it's funny because prior to her passing, I thought the legacy for me would be the highlight reel of all the productions and all the stage things, and all the lights and all the credits. And then after she died, I started to realize that I don't care about none of that because none of those people can tell you not one degree my mother has, but they can tell you how she changed their life. And so I've just been really intentional about how I make people feel and how I want to be an impact in their lives.
Love
Yeah.
that. Love that. And so for the creative listening who feels stuck, who might feel overlooked or boxed in, what's the truth you wish somebody had told you earlier?
That there is no box.
Mm,
Boxes are a figment of people's imaginations. I put it like this. I think that, sometimes you will go to someone's home and they will have a playpen for their child. And my child plays within these nice little walls because that's the safe area. And for them, that is true. That is the safe area for their child. But you can say, oh, for my child, I don't do them little boxes. My child can roam this house because I want them to be creative and to be free. Right. And so for me, I just live my life of that playpen, that box is imaginary. And you can do whatever it is you want because the reality of it is just like a child, someone else is trying to give you that playpen. But all you got to do is stand up, walk over it, and go forth into greatness. So I think boxes are a facade. Boxes are the thoughts of other people. And don't let anybody try to box you into something because that's only based on their limited interaction with life and belief. And God, I've read the Bible a lot. I don't know it by heart, but I ain't never heard about no boxes in the Bible. So if Jesus don't have a box, I don't believe in him.
yeah, so good. So good. Blake, this conversation felt necessary. Thank you for showing us that reinvention, it isn't failure, it's mastery. Thank you for reminding us that the background can be training ground and that it's never too late to claim the spotlight. Tell the people how they can stay connected with all that's happening in your world.
Absolutely. So I'm most active on Instagram. My Instagram is Mr. Blake Martin, MrBlakeMartin. But also, please follow my series page at Watch Sunday Evenings
Mm.
for all the updates and all the things there. And then my website, fromediagroup.com. That is FROW Media Group.
Love it. Love it. Family, go watch Sunday Evenings, go read Baggage Claim, and most importantly, don't be afraid to evolve. This is the Kobe Culture Show. I'm Kobe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow the show wherever you listen to your podcast. Watch, like, and subscribe on YouTube. And please feel free to give us a 5-star rating. See you on the next one.